Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Well, hi everyone. Welcome to episode 60 of Casual Watch Talk. And Chris is back.
Back for 60. Back for the big anniversary.
I know somebody did ask if we'd fallen out or if you were on the naughty step, and that's not the case at all.
It's more of a daylight savings time plus 3-hour time difference, I think. Because you called me like a week ago. You were like, hey, you want to? And I was like, yeah, it's like 1:30 in the afternoon. No, not really. And then, we just didn't really sync up for like a week and a half. So
yeah, so I had some good stand-ins. We had Ben from Ben's Watch Club, and
yeah, it's good. That's good. I watched the Mark one. That was good. That was fun.
Yeah, he's actually sent me one of those Islanders in to borrow for a review.
Oh, cool.
So I'll let you know. Cool. I'll let you know how that goes. It's kind of in the box. I haven't really. There's been a lot of watch movement since in the last 2 weeks since I've seen you. But we might as well start off with wristwatch check, shall we?
All right.
What are you wearing?
Yes. All right. Well, I've got. I'm excited for spring. I'm excited for racing cars, and so I've got the Campagnato Martini style mixture rich, and I've got my Zinn. My Bell & Ross 103, Zinn 103 style. And just, it's great. Classic chronograph. Had it up on Instagram yesterday. Classic chronograph.
Classic chronograph. Well, I am not wearing my new Omega X33.
I was going to ask.
I am not wearing it. I am wearing my Marathon.
With that strap, looks great.
Oh, yeah. I've got it on the Steve-O straps for the audio listeners. It's the strap that I reviewed that's made out of an old Land Rover canopy, a Land Rover tilt. It just suits this military style of watch. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't buy one of these Marathons sooner. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Cool.
It's quartz.
Cool.
But I suppose maybe we'll do a little bit on my X33 in a moment.
We should.
But not before we've done watch obsessions. Have you had a watch obsession?
Not really. Oh, other than I found the links to my Fine Link bracelet. They were in the friggin' weirdest place. They were like, I had packed some stuff to go away, and I don't know what possessed me to put it in this little pack, but I had this little everyday carry pack, and I put the little Ziploc bag with the extra link, like I was gonna resize it on vacation or something.
Wow. So you were
like, where did? Yeah.
So the mortgage brokers must be really upset that you haven't had to take a loan out against the house to afford a new link for your Zinn.
That's I know, right? Yeah, exactly. That would have been. I don't know. I don't even know if they. I mean, I'm sure they sell individual. I know I did get the end links. You aren't kidding. So I had the Fine Link for the 103, and I really sort of like discovered the Fine Link bracelet on the 104, but I didn't have one. And so when I picked one up, I was like, oh, perfect. I'll just get the end links, the solid end links. I like just charged them my credit card and didn't ask, but I think they were like $350, something like that. It was like,
wow.
I don't remember, but it was just enough to be like, all right, I don't want to know. Yep. Okay, cool. I mean, maybe I should just at that point, just buy 2 bracelets. So if you need the individual links, not as bad as some of the original, like if you remember the 144 that came in titanium, the original Zinn and Bell & Ross 144 titanium extra links. Oh my goodness, like they're like crazy money. They're impossible to find on the H-Link bracelet. So yeah, talk about mortgage in the house. So no, we're safe.
Well, my watch. I think I'll change mine to watch confession. I'll talk about my X33 in a bit, but after I did that upload with Ben and we were obsessing about Casios from our youth, or from my youth, he's a lot younger than us, but Casio, he's from like, what the Apple Watch? I'm like, no, like this is 90s.
Right. Yeah, I know. When we're hanging out, and you're like, no, I was not.
Yeah, it's dead. But anyway, I didn't mention it on that upload, but there was one Casio that when I was a teenager was like it was like my watch grail. Like it was one of those ones where it was, if I ever had the money, I would buy this watch. And it was just a little bit too far out of the reach of the wage that I was earning for putting letters in envelopes for a local solicitor. I was getting like £25 a day. And I worked out that this watch, it would probably have taken me like, 8 months to save doing millions of letters in envelopes. But I found my watch obsession. It's arriving on Saturday, but I'll just give you a little bit of a sneak peek here.
Yeah, let's
just share the screen. So first of all, my Instagram.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, how did I leave that up
handy.
there?
Had that handy.
Well, I've started to use my Instagram again. So if any of you use Instagram and you'd like to follow me, it's Casual Watch Reviews on Instagram. But anyway, let's look at my wife saw this and was like, that is the ugliest watch I've ever seen. But to me, this is beauty. So here we have the...
Oh, goodness. It's rare. Is this it?
This is it. Here we are. It's the Casio Pro Trek. It's one of the early ones that had the ABC sensors on it. It's the PRT40. There it is. Illuminated backlight.
Interglow. Looks pretty good.
I was obsessed with this watch.
Yeah. Is that's not the original strap, but...
I think that is the original strap.
Really? Interesting.
So for audio...
leather canvas kind of combo, or leather nylon kind of combo.
Yeah. So for audio listeners, I'm looking at a very old PRT40 watch, which was the one that had the altimeter, barometer, and compass in it. But they stuck out the side, like they hadn't perfected that getting inside the watch yet.
Yeah. There's no there's no MEM sensor. There's no this thing. That's the OG compass sensor. I mean that microchip, is, by the way, irreplaceable. But also, it was huge, and they had to move. I think with the compass stuff, I think they had to move part of the circuitry out, and then the temperature and everything. It's interesting how they did it. They popped it in there though, and it would be a sign of the future. So it's definitely a cool snapshot in time kind of horological piece.
Yeah, and what was pretty cool as well, and I'll let everyone know next week if this works. I managed to get the parts off. Have you ever been on that Pack Parts? They've got thousands and thousands of parts for Casio watches, and they had what I believe the original gaskets for this. So I ordered, they were like $3 each, so I ordered a couple of them. Because
they're certainly not going to be the typical Casio with the flat bottoms. It's going to be that funky goes out the turnpike, comes back into the city kind of.
Yeah, that's the
look at that thing.
Yeah, well, that's the shape of it. So the seals. Well, there's my there's my watch obsession, and it's my old. I don't know. They say never meet your heroes, don't they? So I hope it lives up to.
I'm sure. Nah, I'm sure it's going to be like that. I'm sure it's going to be like that. Yeah.
I suppose I'll do a 2-for-1 here. Do you want to hear a little bit about my Omega X33?
So and here's my take on it. We had missed paths. And then how did you, I forget, either it was on your Instagram or, you posted up on the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, join us over on Facebook, Casual Watch Talk. Lots of great discussion going on. And I think you popped it up on that, and I was just like, what? It just scrolled my feed randomly and I was like, you got one. So, and then you sent me a text message of worry. So what happened?
Well, there's a local watch store here. I think I've told you, it's amazing. The guy who runs it, Orlando Watch Company, and obviously we're in Orlando here, he's got some amazing watches in the store, including Grand Seiko. Your favorite Bell & Ross is there as well.
Oh, nice.
He's got, but he's also got vintage watches, and he's got an original Accutron watch. And when I was chatting to him, apparently he believes... I don't know how we would verify this, that he's the last authorized Accutron service guy who can work on the tuning fork movement.
Oh, okay.
And he was telling me how he can get these. So a big shout out to Stephen Eisenhower on the Facebook group, who he collects those. But this was amazing. So he had one of these. Anyway, he had the X33 in there, and I'd gone in to get my wife's a battery changed on my wife's Seamaster, because I'll happily change the batteries on my watches, but when it's my wife's watch, I'm always worried. If I messed it up, I'd never hear the end of it. So it's worth the $35. Anyway,
did you scratch this? Did you take the screws out wrong? Yeah, I'd be terrified. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a clean room procedures here when I have to do a battery change on something.
Yeah, it's the only watch, her Omega Seamaster, that I won't do the battery change on. Her other one is obviously mechanical, the Rolex, but. So, and he had one of these X33s, the Gen 1, like the original one. This is, for anyone that's not familiar with the X33, it's the Annie Digi one. And the prices went crazy because the chap wore one on the Dragon mission recently. Anyway, so it was a good price, and it had all of the box and papers, which doesn't sound that impressive for a vintage watch, but that watch came with this case that was just awful. It just falls to bits. I mean, even when you touch the inside, the flock comes off onto your hands.
Right. That like foam made of like dust suspended in air. You just touch it and it's like, oh, okay, that's all right. That's not there anymore.
Yeah, and so it's in really good condition. The box, it's in fair condition, I'd say.
Fair condition.
So I was like, okay, I think this is it. And my wife was there, and she's like, yeah, you can go for it if you want. And I was like, okay. Right. So because I was actually toying with the Bell and Ross that similar to you've got with the blue and the grey.
Oh, okay. Tried that on. Cool. But X33, that's been on your list. So cool.
When I got it home, the alarm didn't work. So apparently this is like a common thing with that the alarm didn't work on them. So it's gone back to them, and I haven't returned it. I just want them to see if they can fix it. Because obviously it'd be nice. So that's you will be seeing it on the channel soon.
All right, good. That's good.
I'll keep everyone posted.
Nice to get wife approval on that. That's I know.
Yeah, she still thinks it's ugly, but whatever. If you like it.
Is it? I think I told the story about the 104, but I was just happened to be browsing eBay, and I was like, "Do you like the white dial or the black dial?" And she's like, "I like the white dial," and it just happened to be like a super cool, like a super good deal on it, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Buy. Make offer." It's like just throwing off his head. Like, well, this is the one you said was cool, so. Wait, that's $900? Weird. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so more to come on the channel soon on that one. Right. Well, shall we do... We've decided to mix it up a little bit for future episodes. We've got a lot of feedback that you guys really like when we do the news and then the interviews separately. Mm-hmm. So we're going to try and just see if we can evolve this podcast into giving you all of the key stories from the world of horology. We'll go into depth on some of them, but we're all living such busy lives, and there's so many different watch publications now. A podcast where we can just deliver the stories to you. So you're on your way to work, everything that's going on in the world of horology. We'll try and mix it up, Chris, won't we? Like different brands and different price ranges and things like that. And if there's any stories that you want us to cover on one of the episodes, let us know in the comments section, and we'll do it the following week, or drop us an email, or let us know on the Facebook group as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the new section, I think we'll call This Week in Watches, or Twitter.
No, it's just going to be like, what'd you say? Like Power Ballad before? This Week in Watches.
This Week in Watches. We'll try and do a theme song. Or if anybody's like a talented musician, let us know.
Right, we'll just cut to it, but go for it.
Well, let's kick this off then. So let's, first story I thought was super interesting on a blog to watch. Have you seen this limited edition Carl F. Booker watch?
Yummy. I love it. Yes, I saw it, and then you put this in the list of stories we were going to cover for This Week in Watches. I am jealous of those who get to have this one. I really like the look of this watch.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, it's an absolute beautiful watch. It's a limited edition Heritage by Compacts, it's called, and it's got an annual calendar, and it's a reverse panda, but the annual calendar even takes into account, the only time you have to set it is for a leap year. It even takes into account February. And
it's got the little button on the side. You just have to press once every 4 years or something.
It's amazing. And you can keep it running. The dates the date is separate on the dial. The date is the month is between the 4 and the 5. I think that looks really cool. And then for the actual date, it's got the two larger dates numbers separately at the top of the dial. It looks really, really cool. It's using an ETA movement. I didn't realize ETA made a movement like that. Nice. But yeah, limited to 200 pieces here. It's a stunning looking watch. $7,200, which
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's fair for the maybe. Who's our friend that has it? It's Todd that has. Yeah. I mean, when he first showed us the one he picked up, kind of had my eye on this one. I think fair price for that, and just gorgeous looking. I think it's that line. I think it's that perfect line between like it's like a sporty wear all the time, but also totally dress watch. It's that good balance that, you know, you can absolutely hop into the race car on a weekend with this thing on, but also, you know, show up in a suit on Monday morning. Super sharp looking. Definitely hits a bunch of key things for me. Definitely that reverse panda. Oof.
Yeah, we should. While we mentioned Todd over on the Facebook group, we should wish him happy birthday because it was his birthday a few days ago, and he got an Omega Speedmaster.
That's right.
One of the last of the previous versions, which he was made up about, and he got it. If you want to hear more about Carl F. Booker, if you're not familiar with them, Chris and I weren't, were we? We interviewed Dean Bump, who's a watch seller from Little Switzerland, and he knows all about the history. The tie-in with Rolex is impressive enough to learn about them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because, you know, that $7,000 price, that's why I was like, yep. So I'm like, once you kind of know the history of it, and you know, okay, who they are as a brand, I think it was definitely one of those brands that you're like, you know, they just it kind of could fall into the background and you wouldn't maybe recognize them. But yeah, if you haven't, check out that pod on those guys. Cool.
Next story. I know that a few of you have emailed me in the comments section, or you've let Chris and I know that you like it when we take the mick out of Hodinkee, but this week we can't because they've done a real nice piece on Alan at Tsao Baltimore.
Yeah.
So a friend to the show, Alan at Tsao Baltimore, they've done a really nice article on his watches, and they've got the new bronze version of the compressor style watch that he's done, and it looks gorgeous. They've took some just amazing images of it and done a really nice background story to him.
I would not think this, but I think purple dial, but it's basically like a purple to black gradient, but with the bronze, totally works. I think the lume is the right shade as well, to sort of match the purple and the bronze color. I think it's a great combo.
Yeah, and he's using, I wonder if it says in the article, but I believe he's using that SOPROD movement as well, which I think we're going to hear a lot more about, especially if ETA starts restricting the supply. Not that they are doing, but if they do, I think SOPROD's going to be, they're one of the oldest movement manufacturers.
Yeah, very sharp.
Okay, so over to our next story, and this again was one that got quite the hive of activity over on the Facebook group, because a few of us that are signed up to the Synchron group emails got an email around a new watch that they were releasing, which is actually a new old watch. And Fratello magazine have done a really impressive article on it. Now, long story short, this watch, Synchron Group, who own Isofrane, they own the original Tropic name. They were the original makers of the straps that are commonly associated with Tropic, but Tropic itself is a brand, and they own it. I've reviewed a few of their straps on the channel. The isoframe ones, I believe they're worth what they charged, $139. The rubber that they use is isoprene. That's how they got the name. They formulate this compound anyway, long story short. They've been releasing some vintage dive watches that really look like straight from the 1970s. We've talked about them before. I think I even had one in my best watches of last year when we did that podcast. Anyway, they've released this Synchron Group Army watch that looks exactly like a Doxa. And except for it's got an amazing set of hands, it looks as if it was made for a military, but even Fratello watches couldn't work out whether it was originally military released. It's based on a Doxa from 1970s. They've recreated it very close. Apparently this is so rare there might only be 100 of these original ones. Anyway, they've recreated this like homage to that one. But it goes even a little bit deeper than it being a homage. Anyway, so they released it. It's got Synchron Group, and it's got this specific army logo on it, which is like a target symbol. It's a really good looking, really beautiful looking watch. And I toyed with whether I should get it or not, but I just bought the X33. So there was this stink about, it looks just like a vintage Doxa, but I didn't realize this. Fratello's goes into it in some depth, that Synchron Group, Doxa used to own Synchron Group. They're not affiliated now, but at one time, so at the time that this watch was made. What do you think of the look of this?
It may be polarizing. It may be polarizing because it's got a busy look to it. It's kind of got a busy, like checkerboard kind of pattern to it. Like how the super legible. I like it. I definitely feel though it's it may have a yes or no kind of binary take to it, but the recreation itself is great. I had to scroll down a bunch on this one to see, like, I thought the first picture was the original. And then I scrolled down a bunch to be like, all right, well, where's your homage? How did you mess the bezel up or change the lume or whatever? So, I mean, it absolutely nails the, like, I was skin diving in the 1970s, and here is the watch I used. It checks that off. It's amazing.
It's amazing. So Luke, who a member of the group, managed to snag one of these when they were $990. They sold out of this silver one, and then there's also a black PVD one. Yeah. But who it rattled even more, it seems like, was Doxa themselves, because then they posted an Instagram post of a similar looking army watch, but that had the Doxa hands. And exactly. So then they, a little bit cheeky, their post was something to the fact of, well, we might be bringing one out, and you know, why don't you have the original? And then they later the next day tweeted almost what looks like an identical dial to the Synchron Group, but with Doxa on it.
Right.
So to see that, that's So there might be a Doxa version of this coming out, and there's obviously some war of.
It's like I think it would be as if Breitling came out with a new Navitimer, right? Or vice versa. Zinn, who purchased the rights to build the Navitimer. So, like, if they both came out with like a vintage Navitimer at the same time, as like, and they're trolling each other, and you're like, guys, it's you both own the rights to it, or you both allowed the use of it. So that's going to be. So Doxa said basically, because it was Doxa branded, they were able to put one out. And Synchron, because it's Synchron branded, they were it's a kind of a similar take, where it's like you've got two companies, identical, making an identical style watch. Little
exactly. It was like when I guess it was like Budweiser and Budvar, where the two Czech brothers separated. One came to America, one stayed in Europe. They technically, made the same beer under the same name, and they were together at one time, but then they separated. So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and then get back together and make the same style watch. Wow, interesting.
I'm really interested to see the Doxa one. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to be near the 1,800 mark. I'm sure of it, to keep it in line with those other ones.
Yeah.
But this Synchron Group 1 promotional price of $990 with a 1,290 retail price. And as one of the members of the Facebook group, we'll get to see what it's like. We'll get to hear his view on it. So I'm excited about that one.
Yeah. Glad he. Glad he snagged it, and certainly I feel like you want to get the first one. That's less. They're going to get the first one that's out versus the recreation of the recreation. So first to market there. Nice.
Next story, and this is just a real quick one here, and it's only because I really enjoyed the show far more than I thought I would. But did you get round to watching WandaVision yet?
I have not. I've heard stories. I didn't get a chance to check this one out.
Well, Hodinky, giving Hodinky credit twice in one upload.
What is happening?
Exactly. They haven't released a limited edition yet, but they have written an article about another limited edition, which we'll go into. But essentially, they did a nice write-up on because everyone's not familiar. WandaVision it's a Marvel. It's the Scarlet Witch and the Vision, and the Vision died. Spoiler alert! In the last set of films, and she's coming to terms with it. And the whole series it starts off. I won't give away the full premise of it, but essentially it starts off where each episode is like a vintage sitcom. So it starts off with the first episode is very much filmed like Bewitched. It's so well, even if you're not into Marvel, you've got to have Disney Plus to watch it, but it's so well done. Anyway, there's these, obviously they have watches that have corresponded to the various time periods that they're in. So, it's like 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and right up to the 90s. And they've done a really good markup on... a really good write-up on all of the different watches that was used. But I didn't realize this, but I mentioned this on one of the earlier podcasts where they had a watch advert in there. And it looks like Hot Topic did an awful job of knocking one out, which is a shame, really, because it would be quite a cool thing to have if you were a Marvel fan and also a watch collector to have one of these.
Have like Hamilton make it, or have like... would be a collector's item immediately.
Well, unless they do what they did with the Tennant watch and just make it nothing like the film.
But in this case, it kind of looks like that. It looks like that early 1940s, 50s kind of on everyone's wrist.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And there's a lot of thought that's gone into it as well, because Vision. In it, the Vision is playing an everyday man that works in an office. They've actually selected watches that correspond with that. Obviously, he wouldn't have been able to afford a Rolex, so he doesn't have a Rolex. He's like a Bulova and so on, and a Casio data bank when it goes to the 80s. It's really, really cool. They've done a nice job of that on Hodinky. Whilst we're talking about Hodinky, a while ago, this isn't a limited edition from them, but do you remember I was obsessed with that brand Kith when they did a limited edition rose gold G-Shock that looks awesome? Anyway, they will be releasing a sort of rainbow version of it. It's going to be $400. The case is sort of like a rainbow metal.
Yeah, it's it looks like rainbow titanium. It looks like every color of titanium that you could possibly make. It's kind of cool. Metal, kind of reflective metal. Very, very cool color.
Yeah, I really like the look of that. So I might try and see if I can get one. They're $400, which is a little bit sneaky for a G-Shock. But I do like the look of that. Not as much as I like the look of the rose gold. I wish I hadn't procrastinated about that. But anyway. While we're... This is going to seem like such a strange link until I explain the story, but since we were just talking about Marvel, do you know who the latest watch brand to sign up with Marvel is?
Oh, I think I know, but it's a surprise. It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. It's a surprise to me as well.
Yeah.
Marvel are about to release, or Disney Plus is about to release another series, not WandaVision, but this is around the Winter Soldier. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and essentially Don Cheadle apparently is a big collector or a big fan of AP. So AP have signed up with Marvel.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. We're going up market, kids.
I know. Well, these Marvel films, they've got some impressive, like Doctor Strange with the Jaeger. They're getting some really interesting watches.
Yeah.
In fact, Citizen have just done a tie-in watch, Falcon and the Winter Soldier watch titanium. It does look good.
It's interesting take from this was you would think that, it would be Marvel, maybe AP could come and make us something, or if they'd like to get involved, kind of like a very like stuffy. But apparently it was the other way. Apparently AP was like, yeah, oh my god, get them on the phone right now.
Yeah,
get Marvel on the phone. We want to be in your movies and stuff. And I was like, wow.
Can you imagine how that conversation went? They went, oh yeah, so we're part of the Holy Trinity, and you're like, what? Captain America, Hulk? No, it's a different Holy Trinity of different.
Yeah, right. I know. It's certainly an interesting. Again with Don Cheadle there, kind of opening the door and saying like, hey, yeah, we should get together and do a collaboration. But definitely it was a surprise because you would think, the velvet rope's got apart, and we're like, well, we're not really your type and style, that sort of thing. But very interesting that they were open to it. That sort of a glimpse into Adama Gay and showing that it's where their marketing is listening and focused, and they're not. Because you kind of expect, like some of these older Swiss brands, you kind of expect them to be like the stuffy old, we're a stuffy old,
we don't want to be
Swiss company.
With
we don't want to be. You need $7,000, and then we'll get rid of the riffraff. Like we're not gonna put this in your, any old movie kind of thing. So interesting insight into it.
Would you think the pandemic's changed that? Do you think that they're not getting, because of last year, and they weren't getting the throughput in the AP ADs, because they don't do a lot of TV advertising or anything like that, do they, that you ever see?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to say. I don't know. I would say a brand that knows its worth also knows that it has to focus on what is coming down the road. So you'll see companies get into trouble with this kind of all the time. Car companies especially. I just watched this thing on Subaru. Subaru's a car company that like they understand that like, okay, we were selling hopped up turbo 4-wheel drive cars to 20-year-olds. But now everybody wants a wagon they can put their dog in. You know what I mean? So like they knew kind of like 15 years, they're like, yeah, well, we sell the sports car, you can get a BRZ, but like 15 years from now, like you're gonna want a wagon to put, the kids in and stuff like that. So like identifying like where you are in that and like being smart about, okay, so, if we start to make inroads or make connections into, folks 30, 40 years old, enjoy Marvel films, even younger than that. We make some of these connections, down the road, hey, we're that brand in the movie, this sort of thing. So I think any, super smart marketing company is going to be focused on that sort of like, what is our, like, we're doing great, like Rolex or AP or, we're doing great right now, but like, what does that look like in 12, 15, 20, 30 years, to have these companies around for that long. So
yeah,
I don't necessarily tag it to the pandemic. I tag it to a really smart, aware marketing group.
Yeah, and this is the sort of the crap thing about Rolex, isn't it? Because a lot of people, grandparents and parents had Rolexes as an achievement, and now you've got no hope unless you've got some serious money to put down for you to be, oh, I got a new promotion, I bought a Rolex. Now it'd have to be, I won the lottery and bought a Rolex.
Right. And those those brands, those those high brands can change. I mean, you look at, this past year, Tesla was like the number one like luxury sports car. So like you look in the neighborhood and you're like, oh, who's got the fancy? Oh, you got a Maserati, you got a Porsche, you got a P100D. Oh, this guy's got some money, And so like that brand recognition, and also like that signal of wealth changes, and you're not always, Rolex is not always going to be necessarily that like symbol of wealth. So they have to, kind of keep that going. Certainly.
Yeah. And I think they've got I was actually chatting to Nicholas at Fears Watches. We've got a video coming up shortly, which is I'm really excited about, but it's a little bit of a secret, so not enough about that at the moment. But I was chatting to him about this idea of Rolex, the romance about Rolex, obviously it's an achievement watch, but even the romance around Comex diving submariners, they really trade off this, that submariners were used for professional diving and stuff like that. But there's no way, like if Comex was suddenly buying watches for their divers now, there's no way they'd look at Rolex.
Right.
Because Rolex was a great tool for the job, pioneering at the time. But it's the same with these military reissue watches like the Ben Roos that I'll do a story on now. No military is buying CWC watches at 600. They bought them because they were a utility, and they were a quality that they would pay a little bit extra for. But now it's you're not going to see Comex on the dial of a new Submariner.
Right. Yeah, I think to kind of your point, the diversity of the how much what am I want to say, the cost of their products. So sort of their entry level products versus their high end products. What's the gap there? What's the spread between what are you starting off? So right now, if you don't, what are we at? 6,000, I think. Most inexpensive. Like you can get a Milgauss. 6,000. Yeah. It's not, as a popular status brand, it's great to move up market. But if you're looking down the road, like what are your entry level pieces that are getting people in? So 30, 40 years ago, your $600 Submariner that everybody could pick up, and then like I said, eventually became that status symbol. It's got to come back around. So I guess my next point is entry level AP. When are we getting one of those?
Speaking of AP, actually, even though we went on a little bit of a tangent from there, they've just released a load of new watches, and they're stunning. They've done green dials across the range.
I know. Green for the money.
I mean, they're way out of my price range, but they look stunning. These are Royal Oaks in yellow gold, stainless steel, and they've got a green dial, and they look beautiful.
Yep. Speaking of wealth signal, right there. There you go. I mean, if you see someone wearing one of these, you're like, all right, you're doing very well.
I saw the gentleman that I bought the X33 from. He had a rose gold tourbillon AP Royal Oak, and he took it off and he said, what do you think of that? And the thinness of it, unbelievable.
Right? And also the down payment on a house of it.
I said, I passed it to, he handed it to my wife and said, oh, what do you think of this? And I turned to her, I said, oh, what do you think of that? And she's like, oh yeah, it looks nice. And I said, that's about the price of a house.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I not that I would do it, but it's cool to see some of those pieces. I remember we went to a Zenith, pronounced correctly, American, here in Orange County, and similar. It was one of their what was it? The fuse, the chain wound movement. So it has like a chain in it that. Anyway, just absolutely stunning piece of high horology. And my wife had it in hand and was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And you're like, yeah, it's also a house. One house, please.
Yeah, it's so funny. Speaking of Zenith, I watch this financial YouTube channel called Graham Stefan. He's called. He's really entertaining. He covers a lot of stocks and shares and finance. And anyway, he did a collab with Federico, and he's got this great story about how his grandfather passed away. And he went to help clear out the house by chance. He was sort of passing and went to help his mum. And he found this Zenith watch that wasn't working. Anyway, it was one of the original 1963 watches. Incredible. Such a great video Federico did with him.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
I really like that one. Well, before we sort of coming to the end of the news here, but I had to just get another little dig in on this flipping Ben Roos. There's a blog to watch have also done a piece on this. So Ben Roos must be shopping this flipping thing round. They must be sat on a boatload of him. And long story short, I mean, they admit that it's a great watch. But what I thought was real interesting that they mentioned. Not only did they mention, they've obviously talking about this Ben Roos, but not only did they mention the Bamford quartz version of this watch that's $300. But they mentioned that Paradive. So there was another company that made this watch, Paradive. Yeah. And spec for spec, they're like identical, except that's $900, not flipping $1,600 and something. So they must be hocking this thing round to drive. I mean, I bet they're sat on a boatload of them. I mean, what a bloody miss from them.
I was just gonna say, they missed the boat. Like you gotta strike when that nostalgia, when someone is like, oh, here a perfect example is the not the Doxa, but what's a Synchron. It's that, this watch comes out, somebody sees it, and there's some nostalgia for it. Strike while the iron's hot, and not after, I don't know, like 18 companies have made a Type 1, like a Benrus. I mean, like, you type in Benrus homage into Google, it is like, and so then after that, you're like, oh yeah, well, this one's really close to the original and really well made, and you're like, okay, but also the market, so the market's already either if you like this watch 2 years ago, you're walking around with it already, you're wearing it already, you're wearing a version of it already. Whether it's this one or like Mark II made one, MK2.
Mark II with the numbers on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, just there has to be like I think at least 10 that have already been done. So ship sailed on this.
Yeah,
one.
and I totally agree with you, because the other thing, if you're thinking about this Ben Roos watch, I'd encourage you to find. We've mentioned this before, haven't you? A pre-owned one, because they weren't. A civilian couldn't buy these watches. So they were not only military issue, but you had to be in the military to actually buy one. Yeah, so that's why it was known as the CIA watch. So find an original. This again, what we just were talking about, the Comex Rolex. Yeah, military is going to buy up a load of $1,600 flipping ETA 2824 simple watches to equip to their.
Yeah, no, and that's a good, and set your set your price as such. I mean, so like, I'd way rather have one that was issued military for that amount of money, or even a little bit more. That's like OG original, was actually issued, has the stamp on the back of it, that sort of thing. I mean, that's way cooler than the I need it now and I spent a bunch of money on a really good homage of it that had already been done 5 times in the market. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that was this week in watches. Let us know what you think over on the Facebook group, Casual Watch Talk. And as always, we appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.